Today we have Andrew Frazier from AJ Management, Business Growth Like a Pro, Barry Cohen from AdLab Creative, and Myani Lawson from Bergen Lafayette Montessori School. I always like to begin by just giving an overview of just kind of what we do at Rothman and where we are in society with this pandemic and the economy and all that stuff. So make sure. Okay. Our mission statement is those who've attended before is to research, promote, and support entrepreneurship with a special focus on family and veteran businesses. We wouldn't exist without our sponsors, TD Charitable Foundation, Provident Bank, Sun Trust, CIA&J. I know we have Christina and Jonathan from Sun Trust. Tony Russo, I think, is going to be joining us shortly. Some of the programs that we have, our student entrepreneurship program, we've been a big part of the statewide university pitch program where students develop a business plan and submit it and present it at Bell Labs, or with the old the Nokia Bell Labs now. We now have, we've had something called the Family Business Alliance for 30 years where we work with family businesses. They sign up for our program, they participate in forums. We also have a peer-to-peer mentoring program, which has been very, very successful to really have CEOs talk confidentially about some of the challenges they face. This coming year, or this year, will be our 28th Family Business Awards, where we honor the best family businesses over 10 million and under 10 million. We are taking applications now. So our website is rothman@fdu.edu, rothman@fdu.edu. If you know a business or you have a business that you'd like to nominate, we have a program called Veterans Launching Ventures, which we just finished up our spring cohort. We're starting a national summer cohort that has gotten great interest because we're doing it on Zoom, where we help veterans and veteran family members who have a business idea develop a business plan and launch their business or help their business grow. And we've had some amazing success stories. And then we have a small business series. I see Bellaria Jimenez is on the line, who's been a big partner with that, where we have outstanding speakers who talk about issues related to small business. We have started, as many of you have heard, something called Family Business Week. You know American Express has a shop small. So Family Business Week is focused on the fourth week in October, where we're encouraging everybody to identify and support a family business. We want them to do year round, but it's so important to really celebrate family businesses, which are really the largest segment of the global economy. We've developed a website called Shop Family NJ that really to help people buy gift cards and others for businesses, retail, restaurants that have been struggling during this time. We also have a YouTube channel, the Rothman Institute of Entrepreneurship YouTube channel, where we'll have this presentation as well as many of our others. Of course, our Family Business Fridays, I think we're in our 10th week of doing this. We anticipate doing this through the end of the year, so we can bring outstanding speakers like you'll hear today. And we really want to be a resource. So if you know somebody or you know some information or you want to learn something, let us know. We can probably find a speaker nationally. Because we're Zoom, we're actually doing things nationally now. I'm pleased to report that I'm now a member of the New Jersey Restart and Recovery Advisory Council, which is really focused on advising the governor on what we need to do to get the economy back to where it was. So here's a better version of that. And so now I kind of go into the economics and you know, this is a sign that's all too familiar, and hopefully these signs will be going away soon. It's very hopeful as we had a meeting, we have meetings every Friday for the Restart and Recovery Commission. And we're really making, you know, the governor's making inroads to really open businesses. Restaurants, certainly sidewalk restaurants will open soon. Even beauty salons, barbers, and others are scheduled to open if they can figure out how to do that safely. These are, and again, I show this slide, you know, every week, and this is the slide that speaks volumes to me because we know how bad the economy was in 2009, 2010, where there was a record of 700,000 unemployed folks. You look at 2020, And you're looking at numbers, and these are actually old. They're higher than this. It's 38.6 million jobless claims. And that's largely because of small businesses being slowed and closed down. And this graphic really explains why. You're looking at almost 70% of the small businesses, 70% of the businesses in the country are under 100 employees. About 20% are under 500, and the rest are large businesses. So you can see why this segment of the economy is so important. So now, and I'm going to make Andrew Frazier a panelist, and then I'm going to show a short video. Barry Cohen from AdLab Creative, Myani Lawson from Bergen Lafayette Montessori School. Our hope today is really to introduce you to a business advisor talking to some of their clients, and promoting Andrew. I'm promoting you to a panelist. And Myani, let me see here. I don't see Myani. Okay. So I'm going to introduce Andrew as with a video. Hold on a sec. Hopefully you can all see that.
Looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place. My name is Andrew Frazier, outsourced CFO and owner of Small Business Like a Pro, where the more you know, the faster you grow. I've worked with over 500 entrepreneurs and business owners one-on-one and taught thousands of people about entrepreneurship and business over the years. As an author, advisor, and small business thought leader, Andrew Frazier's expertise in business strategy and financial management has helped hundreds of organizations to grow revenue, increase profits, and obtain financing.
Excellent information, especially.
And we'll stop there because I want to get into the meat of things. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you. Good.
Yep.
How are you doing, Dale?
Good. So we have Andrew, Barry. Myani, I don't see is in the room yet. Let me check.
Yeah, she's in the room, but somewhere.
Let's see. No, is it a phone number? I don't see her name.
Let's see. Myani, you want to raise your hand? Let's see. Yes, her hand is raised now.
Okay, let me see. We have a lot of attendees, fortunately, so. Wow. Well, Andrew, why don't you start doing this while I try to get her?
Yes.
Dale, she's
Okay.
under Andrew. She's coming up with Andrew's name.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you must have entered under Andrew. That's why. Okay.
Or maybe she used my link. Actually,
You may have used your link.
yes.
Let's see. Now that may cause a problem. Let's see if we can. So can you, Myani, can you put on your video?
Okay. Yep. There we go.
Yeah, there she is.
Okay, let me rename myself then. I don't know why I'm coming up as Andrew.
You might have used Andrew's link, so that's probably why.
Oh, okay.
Everybody has to register separately, so that's fine. So I'll
Okay.
turn it over. And again, let me just begin. One of the things we're trying to do this week, and we'll do in subsequent weeks, is to really expose people to other businesses and how they've dealt with problems and challenges and so on. And so again, we want you to ask some questions throughout the process. So Andrew, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dale. I've worked with Myani for several years now, and we've spent time working on growing her business and being able to run it more professionally. And she's done some great things, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about what her business is, and then we'll ask her some questions and talk a little bit about what she's doing and what she's done as far as the crisis.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Myani Lawson. I am the founder and executive director for Bergen Lafayette Montessori School. We are located in Jersey City, New Jersey. This is our sixth year that we are concluding in 1 week. The school year will be over for us. It's been quite an interesting school year. We opened a new infant room and had some delays on that early on in the year and got that program going in December. And then now with COVID-19, we've been virtual since March 16th with children ages 0 to 3rd grade. So that's been a very interesting journey. So I'm glad to be here and thank you for having me.
Okay. Great, thanks, Myani. Definitely this crisis snuck up on everyone. Everything seemed fine, and then all of a sudden, the state closed down, and all. So, it was hard to react and prepare, and many businesses were caught not ready. But actually, you reacted very quickly and decisively, and that turned out to be a big difference. Can you tell us a little bit about your reaction to the crisis, and how you decided upon the strategy that you took?
Well, we were given on March 13th, Friday, March 13th, we were given a directive that we were to close for the week. And we were told that we were to do an intensive COVID cleaning and the CDC guidelines and everything like that. So we got that email, the final email about that around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and by 2:30 we had alerted all of our families in the school that we were going to have to close the school building for a week. We had to do a cleaning, and we would let them know with further notice. So over the weekend, actually Friday night, Saturday night, I was like, well, these parents are going to be home with these very young children, and it's not like it's spring break, the parents are on vacation themselves, the parents are still having to work. So that was really the rationale behind starting our virtual offerings and taking the school virtual the first week, because it was just, trying to be of assistance to the parents, understanding that they were still trying to work. So over the weekend, one of the teachers and myself, we put together, we have Zoom. And so we have it already for meetings that we use for the school. So we just said, okay, let's go ahead and take the classes for the children. Sorry, that's my baby in the background there. But real life. For the children, let's go ahead and take those online as well. But we were really under the impression that that was going to be about a week. And so we have 30-minute time slots for each of the children, each of the classes, and then we have they meet a few times a day, and then we send resources for the parents. But we actually thought that that was going to be a 1-week thing. I'm glad that we did end up doing it, because it's now been 11 weeks that we've been going strong, and our kids, I'm really happy with what we've been able to do with children. Our youngest student is 14 months old. He's been online with his parents every day and participating in all his lessons. And, so it's been a great feat to be able to do it. And we're happy that we've been able to serve the children and also to continue to help the parents through this time that nobody knew was coming.
Right. And, definitely you were able to pivot quickly. And, one thing about a crisis is the needs, wants, and desires of customers and people change. And you adapted into the trend to be able to address some of those needs, these new needs, in a good way. So now, by adapting, you're a school, people can't come in, they used to come in every day. You charge pretty high tuition. How did that affect your operations and your finances?
Well, our tuition is actually very economical for a Montessori school. We are actually the most affordable Montessori school in this tri-state area. But we do have overhead costs and things, and we are actually, we're a Montessori school, so we have Montessori trained teachers that have to go to additional training. So yes, we are more pricey, I guess, than a daycare center, but we offer a lot more. And so, but the parents were really, okay, we're really, You want to repeat your question for me? Because now it went out of my.
So, even though, students aren't coming to your school, how has that affected your cash flow as far as, and your customers?
Well, the parents have been very loyal to what we've been doing right now. They're very, okay, hold on, I'm sorry.
Okay. And
That's real world. See, that's real world. That's what we're all dealing with.
It is. Hold on one second.
okay. And, we've talked some about kind of what you did, but go ahead.
Well, basically the parents were very supportive of us. They appreciated what it was that we were doing, and they appreciated the fact that we didn't just, close the building and say goodbye, good riddance, good luck. Because it's not very easy to be able to maneuver with young children online in the way that we did. They don't have access to smart technology. They don't have email addresses. They don't have, all of these things. So it was really a concerted effort between our staff and the parents to be able to provide this education, for the children. So they were very thankful. A lot of the parents, they've emailed us, they've called us, we've had a town hall meeting, and they're just like, we don't know how we would have made it through this time so far without this assistance of knowing, what to do and the consistency of it all. Because every day, same time, your child is getting on, we're doing this and we're doing that. And so having a structure to the day allowed the parents to be able to have a structure to the day. So they were very thankful about it. But unfortunately, what happened was some people, as a result of what's going on here, they've lost employment. One or more family members have either lost employment or they've had a downsizing of their employment. So that did affect, and we had to make some adjustments based on that. But the families where there was no change in finances or economics, they were all able to remit their tuition, and they did so. And we said to them, listen, we're asking that, we've done everything that we could possibly do in this particular situation. We do have some families that are in a bad way financially. And if that's not your situation, we hope that you will not ask for a credit or a refund. And those that did not have were not affected financially, they did not.
No, that's excellent. And, one of the things that by, providing for their needs, it seems like you may have deepened your customer relationships that can potentially help you beyond the crisis in terms of referrals and in terms of people staying with the program. Are you seeing that? And what is the impact of that for what you're doing?
Yes, I definitely feel that way. I mean, I feel like we already had a great community to begin with. We really pride ourselves on trying to be a community for the parents. We don't want to be that drop-off place where people they don't know each other. A lot of the families are young families like my own. People don't have, some people don't have family in the area to support them. We want to be a support system to them, and we have lots of different things to engage the parents along the way, so that they feel a sense of community. So I think that is what that's why this has kind of rolled out the way that it is. People pay for their children to come to the school, so there is some sort of transactional nature, but it's not that the entire relationship between the school and the families is transactional. So that they're like, oh, now the building is closed, give me my money back. I don't have childcare for my child, give me my money back. It wasn't like that. It was like, what can we do? What can we do to make this work? We want the school to be around when this is over. So what can we do to help? And that's kind of, we all pulled together. And I feel like that started prior to this. I don't think that we could have come into this COVID-19 situation and then said to everybody, hey, rally around this if we had a purely transactional relationship with the families that we serve before this time.
Let me ask. So, Andrew, you guys work together, right? How did you guys work together?
Well, we actually, I came to meet Myani because she's looking for financing.
Right. Okay.
Early on with the school, had some cash flow challenges, and we worked through really being able to identify ways to improve upon the cash flow challenges. She was able to get some additional financing for her business, and and now she's running her business very proactively, which is great. Anything else you want to add, Myani?
That's my point, is that I think people, it's not, some will say, well, I don't have a school. How does this relate to me? But it relates in that a professional advisor, well, two things that come out of this is, one is the relationship. Well, she tends to her little one. The relationships that you have with your clients, your customers, is so important for you surviving this crisis. And so you've developed that great relationship. But also, don't be afraid to actually invest in support. Work with organizations Tony Russo is on, with CIA&J, with some advisors and consultants to help you through this period. I don't care if you have a restaurant or a school or a construction company. And so I think it's important to talk a little bit about that too. So.
Excellent.
Yeah. So we got some of the questions. There was no tuition change, which is testimony to the because I'm vice president of the Brunswick Board of Education, and I'm at Fairleigh Dickinson University. And a lot of our students, in fact, we paid back over $1 million to students because they weren't in the dorms. They didn't have online. And most of the universities have done that. And so it actually is amazing that you've been able to deal with that, with the relationships.
Well, we did for programs that, we weren't able to do. Like, we're not able to have our summer camp. We're not able to continue on with our infant program past June. June 9th is our last day of school. And so since we're not able to bring our infants back into the building, we suspended the school year for everybody at that point in time. And then we also are not able to have any in-person summer camp. So we did on that. And then, of course, like I said, we did have families who they can't do it. If you have no employment, some of the families are now having to move out of the area. But the thing that was really great is that people that could do it didn't just say to us, listen, they didn't just think of us as a child care provider. So I think, what you were saying is, okay, we have a relationship, and they wanted to see it. They want to see us succeed. They want to see the school around. They love what we do. They love the community, and so they're trying to do what they can to help that happen.
Excellent. Well, good. And so what's in the future? What is next? Okay, we've done this. I will tell you, the governor talked about opening graduations, July 6th, which is my birthday, July 6th. The governor did it on my birthday. And so as I said, New Brunswick, we're planning our graduation. But and I fully think that we're going to go back to somewhat normal in the fall. I really believe that. What is your plan for the future?
Are you speaking to me or
for the school? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, for the fall, it's a bit different for us because we are in the early childhood arena.
Right.
So far, what we've heard is that they have plans in place. The plans are coming kind of down age-wise. So it's much easier to put social distancing in place and practice social distancing measures and have college students to practice social distancing measures than it is to have a 2-year-old or younger to do that. So we are not sure if we will be going back in September. We know we will be going back at some point, but they have talked about a staggered start. So what we're doing right now is we're putting we're developing some preliminary, plan B, plan C, plan D, to try to see if this happens. If we go back in September, then this is a scenario. If we go back in September and then we have to be out again because there is another outbreak, then this is a scenario. Because what we found is that, we had a town hall with the parents, what we call actually community forum with the parents this past Friday. And one thing that they said was, now that we know that this type of thing, this pandemic is possible, what's going to be put in place for the future? Because yes, we all paid our tuition. Those of us that could, we paid our tuition. because we support the school. But going forward, if the school has to open, close, and whatever's going to happen, we are going to need to take our resources and figure out what to do, because we have to work and we need, we need people to care for our children. So that's what we're trying to put in place right now, because we lowered our tuition even more for this school year, for this upcoming school year. We want to make the school more accessible to more students. That's been the goal, and that's why I opened the school. And so in lowering it, now if we have these challenges of overhead costs that we have to cover versus being able to be able to gain our full tuition, then it presents a challenge, because we don't want to go furloughing our staff. Again, we have highly trained professionals. It's not like we're just going to go and hire, anybody to come in and watch kids and change diapers and all that kind of stuff. So when you start having to furlough people and they come in and out, so then they might not, stay with that. They have a livelihood too. So now I'm working with my sister-in-law. She's our business manager. And we're working to come up with some different scenarios so that we can still keep the school viable economically, and then meet the parents' expectations about, if we have to close, what would the tuition look like? Would there be any changes in tuition? Would there be, what would happen on that end? But we also need to know more from Governor Murphy, so that we can have a better understanding of when we will be able to go, back into the building.
Well, let me pivot a real second, because I'm going to ask Tony. So we talked a little bit about today we had the governor's restart, the Main Street Restart Commission, about daycare centers, which are essential for people going back to work. Tony, Tony's the CEO of CIA&J, Commerce and Industry Association of New Jersey. Tony, what are you hearing about this?
Yeah, no, thanks, Dale. Andrew and Myani, thanks for being on. Great presentation. Myani, I can't stress enough, we represent a lot of business sectors. And to the person, they tell me, if the childcare industry doesn't open up, businesses don't open up. And also, my daughter actually works at a childcare center, and she's been in touch with her owner. And you have two sets of issues, right? You have to wait till the governor opens up for you guys, but also then you got to get the parents feeling confident again to send their kids, right? So, what we're hearing, Dale, is that I think maybe even as early as half an hour from now, when the governor announces, his plans for stage 2, with some outdoor dining and things like that, I would suspect that childcare is probably going to be part of stage 2, right? And what restrictions you're going to have, that's probably yet to be decided. I know, Dale, you sit on the Main Street one, I sit on the manufacturing and supply chain one, and we've met now 3 weeks in a row, I guess. Yep. And it all centers on, how do you sanitize? How do you disinfect? What kind of equipment you're going to have, and how you're going to practice that safe distancing. It becomes difficult, Myani, for your type of business, because you're dealing with children, right? Are you going to be wearing masks all day long? I was on a Zoom meeting where one of our schools, it was a karate school, and she's concerned, and the mayor really didn't have guidance. As they keep karate lessons, are kids going to be wearing masks? And what are the dangers around that, right? So I don't know, Myani, if you've heard or gotten any guidance. I know we do have some child care centers that are members, and I'm working with your association, but they've put together a plan. They've sent it into the governor. They feel confident that they could operate the school safely. But, these are the kind of issues, Dale, I think everybody's going to have to overcome. Another one, and I'll stop here, is a lot of our businesses are asking the questions of, do I have to test my employees coming back? Right? Do they run a COVID test, an antibody test? Same thing, I'm sure, for the child care center. Are you going to test kids? Are you going to take their temperatures coming in? And these are the issues, I think, Dale, that are going to be decided over the next few weeks. There's a lot.
I think one of the biggest challenges that we face now, that we've heard about, is the reduction of class sizes. So right now, currently, for our age of students, you have to have 35 square feet per child in a classroom. So now we've heard talks about that going to 48, going to 65. Now, if you're doing that, then you're reducing a class by half, and then you have to then account for staffing and things of that nature. But if there's no additional revenue coming in, then how do you get more staff members. One parent had brought it up in our town hall meeting about parent volunteers, but then you run the danger of having excess people in the building that they don't want you to have in the building, and whatnot. So I think that there's a lot, there's some challenges that definitely need to be worked out. But we're up for challenges, and looking forward to hearing what the guidance is, because definitely, especially in the early childhood arena, parents, they need to be able to have places for their children to be. We're not a child care center, we're an early learning center or school,
Right.
but parents do utilize us for child care for them to be able to work. And
Right.
so, without that, it's been a challenge for them over the last 12 weeks. And, and going into the summer with no camps and nothing available except for if you're an essential worker, there's really, people are kind of like, what next? What do we do? So I'll be interested to hear what the stage 2 looks like, and hoping it does include more regulations and mandates and guidelines for people that work with young
One thing
children.
to add, Dale, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
One
no,
of the things, Myani, I know I've talked to some of the child care centers, is that if the governor and the government is going to lay down some restrictions that you can't operate your businesses economically, there should be a counter to that, whether it's a tax credit or something that they could do legislatively to kind of assuage that impact to you financially. I mean, so there's got to be that give and take.
Well, and
Yeah.
so I was going to ask that question, then we'll go to Barry. But the CARES Act, somebody asked about the CARES Act. Does that apply to the school? Do you know Tony or Myani or Andrew?
You would
Yes.
apply for the PPP program, sure.
We did
Okay.
apply for the PPP. The thing about the PPP program is that there's restrictions on it,
Right.
on what you can do with the funds, and also the time limit that you have to use the funds. And so therefore, if you have other things, when working with small children, your insurance is very high. Liability insurance is a lot of money, but you can't use the PPP for something like that.
Right.
But your liability insurance, so far we haven't been able to get any type of reprieve on the liability insurance or anything like that. We're talking with our broker to kind of see where that's going. But, there's been some assistance. Here's my friend.
There's
There's been,
there you go, the star of the
there's
show.
been, yeah,
The
it's
star of the
nap
show.
time for us. There's been some assistance and everything like that, but definitely there's more need. We need more to make it viable and make sure that we're able to be in this for the long haul. Because if not, then you have to start. What's your biggest expense? Cutting staff. Furloughing
Again, before we go, and Tony's been close to this. We announced last week that the EDA $50 million fund. And Tim Sullivan today was saying that it's not oversubscribed yet. So, and that fund is going to take away some of the requirements of PPP. So go to EDA.com and New Jersey EDA to find out some information. So there is money available. I don't know, before we go to Barry, Tony, you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I know it's the $50 million that they freed up because of CARES. And we're actually doing a program with the State Chamber and BIA next Friday at 1 o'clock, Dale. I could send you and your team the call information where Tim's going to go through it. But I think it's a $10,000 grant, right? So it's not a loan. It's a $10,000 grant. But the problem is, just like they experienced the first round, I think they had something like 30,000 applications, 30,000, and only 1,000 got the grant.
Yeah. And so they
it's going to go fast. It's going to go.
Yeah, there were 50,000, and we put ours in the first 48 minutes of the application. It opened at 9. Our application was done by 9:48, and we still didn't.
Wow.
Well, we're going to switch. So next week, and I appreciate you doing it at 1 o'clock, given our 12 o'clock. So we'll have people roll right into that at 1 o'clock next week. And so I want to introduce Barry Cohen from AdLab Creative. And so Barry is just brilliant about working with businesses to use marketing and other things, and has worked closely with Andrew. And so Barry, you're gonna kind of interview Andrew and talk about how you've worked together with the idea that other businesses can get a sense of what they need to do as things open up and they want to market and so on. So Barry, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, thanks, Dale. So we're very fortunate in that we haven't really been as we say, knock on wood, directly affected ourselves. Of course, some of our clients have, but I've worked with Andrew for 4 or 5 years, so he's really he's the brain trust. So I'm going to ask him some of the questions that we all really need answers to. So, Andrew, I would ask you this first. What is the first and most important step that you recommend that small businesses take during this current crisis?
Okay, well, we've all heard that cash is king and queen. At the end of the day, the first and most important thing in regular times, as well as, and even more so in crisis times, is managing your cash. Because if you run out of cash, you run out of business. So assessing your cash position, assessing what access you have to other cash, and then looking at ways that you can decrease the cash that you're spending. So, really looking at cash, few ways you do that is, number one, you've got the loan grant programs. Like Myani said, she got the PPP, she's applied for some. There's going to be new programs coming out even after the crisis. So you want to stay on top of that. And there's organizations like Rising Tide Capital, like the Hispanic Chamber, like the Veterans Chamber, like the African American Chamber, that have been contracted to work with organizations and businesses to help them understand how to get access to the capital. And these are free resources for businesses. So you want to take advantage of that. Second, you want to look at your existing financing. Do you have a line of credit? Maybe you take the money out because sometimes they take it back. Do you have a loan? The SBA is giving you forbearance if you have an SBA loan, and access to additional capital potentially. So, looking at your financing pieces as well. And then finally, looking at your suppliers and customers. Maybe you can get your customers pay a little sooner, give them a discount to prepay. Maybe you can get your suppliers to give you more time or more on credit. So, definitely looking at your cash flow, looking at it every day. And, like Myani was saying, thinking about scenarios that could happen and what you want to do, because you have to be proactive about it.
Right. So in addition to cash flow, which of course is first and foremost, what else should businesses be doing during the crisis to get through?
Okay. Well, at the end of the day, business has fundamentally changed in certain ways. So as a result, you have to revisit your business plans and your strategies. You have to go out and try and understand, what are the trends going on? What are the new needs? What are the new challenges that you may be able to satisfy? Looking at your own business, are there new products? Are there new services? And then finally, business is about relationships. So this is a great time to strengthen and develop new relationships because everybody's at home chilling. And you can get through to people that you might not otherwise be able to get through to, and really take advantage of this so that in the future, that can create additional opportunity going forward.
Great. Now, Andrew, it may sound ironic to say this, but can small businesses actually grow during a downturn or a crisis?
Anytime there's crisis, there's challenges and there's opportunities. And many businesses are actually doing better than they've ever done. I work for a couple manufacturing companies. One of them does computers. Everybody's at home. They're getting more orders. They've grown a lot because people are getting new computers, new technology. So just because it's a downturn, there's always, opportunities and challenges. So you have to figure out how to position yourself, know where you are relative to the trends, and try and position yourself in a better place given what's going on. So there's a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of new needs, but you have to be proactive. You have to be creative, and run your business. So by planning, strategizing, and taking this time, that can help you now as well into the future.
Right. The gorilla always reduces the size of the battleground in order to dominate it. So it's all about niche marketing, right?
Yes.
So, again, when we talk about finding opportunity, think about what new services can people offer, what new products can they offer. And I always say that, when you put something out into the marketplace that it's craving, people will grab onto it.
Yes.
And you're seeing that with your clients?
Yes. I mean, definitely, one person that, not necessarily a client, but someone who's on a board with me. She has a company, international company, that sells hair accessories. And, people aren't really buying a whole bunch of hair accessories, but, early on, her husband said as a joke, maybe we should make masks because we have all this fabric and other stuff. So they made masks, and 80% of their sales now are masks, and they're actually doing well. So, you're seeing creative stuff like that anywhere. There's a lot of organizations doing more PPP or PPE, personal protective equipment. A lot of contracts and other things are going out for that. So, moving into the space where there's greater needs is key.
Right. And, we experienced that ourselves. We started out as an audio video production house, morphed into an advertising agency, added PR. And then I found myself, after I, became a published author, people gravitating to me saying, hey, can you help me with your book? And it turned out that there was more demand for our publishing services than anything else we did. And this came out of the last downturn, where we morphed into basically a publishing house. So let's redirect the conversation now, Andrew, to how can businesses prepare for business post-crisis?
Okay. No, definitely, a couple of things is, number one, you want to assess your strengths versus the opportunities that are out there. Look at your value proposition. Things may have changed. How are you going to tweak your value proposition to meet what's going on currently? What can you do as far as taking advantage of technology and online in terms of either growing revenues or in terms of lowering costs? Because, it's shown that both of those things can happen. People can work from home and remotely, and actually many of them are even more productive. I know my wife works for a big corporation. She probably works more now because she doesn't have the commute than before. So, you can get gains in productivity and lower costs, as well as, many, in my business, I've been taking more things online, doing boot camps, training, and other things, because people have a need for knowledge and information about how to run their business and how to make it through these times. So that's, something new that that's becoming a bigger part of my business. And, I think every business can take a look around and see what's going on. And there's some niche that they may be able to fill to, prepare them to be, when they go forward.
Right. And you make a good point about the fact that we're working remotely, therefore we're using technology more. Isn't that going to kind of demand that we upgrade not only our skills, but our infrastructure individually and collectively for technology?
Great question. I'm actually in the middle of that. I was doing a webinar earlier this week, and my computer couldn't take it. So, the sound was okay, but the video and everything was delayed, and there's issues. So actually, I'm going to pick up a new gaming computer because they're much faster, and so definitely upgrading technology, upgrading things, not just for the business side, on the personal side is key. So definitely upgrading technology, but just upgrading everything you're doing. You have some time to reassess and look at what's going on.
Great. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
So let me add, well, one of the things Barry is actually helping, and Tony, I think you've published a few articles, right? You've written some articles I've written, about 5 or 6, and doing a book with Barry's guidance on this. And so, Barry, I want to ask you about publication. This is an opportunity, especially if you're a professional service firm, to really submit some articles and other things. And so, you want to talk about that? How do you, as things open up, how do you get your presence, out there?
No, it's a great question, Dale, and I'm glad you asked it because, now is the time to distinguish yourself, separate yourself from the pack, raise your profile and credibility. And I like to say, publish or perish is the new business mantra. It was always the mantra in academia. The professors didn't publish, they didn't get retained, tenured, promoted. But, now it's becoming the standard really for business people as well. You want to get your voice out in the marketplace through as many channels as possible. And that's what Andrew's doing. That's what we've been working on together. So whether it's an article, a blog, a podcast, and in truth, they can be the same. You're repurposing content across platforms. Why? Because we live in a multi-platform world where people consume their content differently. So the more platforms you can be on, the better your chances are of touching more people, right? And what this does is, as I said, it raises your profile and credibility, attracts attention to you, and gives you a competitive edge over other businesses if you are the voice of your company. I mean, we had one gentleman who was in the smart home automation field, and he didn't even realize that he needed to do this. We said, look, nobody owns that space at the top of that industry. You have the opportunity to become the face of the industry. And we worked together on publishing his book, right? Join the Smart Home Revolution. His name is Ryan Hurd. And Ryan did exactly what we told him to do. He has now spoken at every trade show and conference in his industry and the allied industries. Now he's going out and he's looking at courting investors for a new outgrowth of his business, where he's doing an aging in place program using smart technology. And again, it's a matter of somebody just taking off and their business just going through the roof because of the fact that they did put their voice out in the marketplace and become known as the expert in their field.
Excellent. So let me ask for the question for any of you. And so, one of the things we talked about today at the Restart Commission was about restaurants, and it looks like we're going to be able to do sidewalk restaurants. I like what Courtney said. We're really looking at really social safety, not as much as social distancing, but social safety. What is the first thing, if I'm a restaurant owner, I'm about to open up, whether it's a marketing, operations, what do I need to do? What should I be? Because some of our listeners are in that space. Andrew, I'll start with you, or Tony. What do you think?
Well,
Go ahead, Andrew. I'm sorry.
okay. Well, I mean, I work with several restaurant owners, and each one is different. So, some of them actually haven't really been affected that much, actually doing more because, they're quick serve or takeout. And, they're getting orders from people they never used to get orders from before. The hard part is it's cutting into their margin because Grubhub and the delivery services cut into their profitability, sometimes pretty significantly. But, it's important to protect your employees because, if you don't keep them safe and you don't keep them healthy, you're putting your whole business at risk, because the last thing you want to do is, be responsible for hurting or, getting your customers infected. So, sanitation is already key in restaurants, but it becomes even more so. But it's necessary. A lot more people don't cook. A lot more people eat out, and now that you're cooped up, going to a restaurant for a lot of people is sort of their release, and something that part of what they do and what really makes them happy. So I think it'll be good. It's just making sure that it's safe for everybody.
Great advice. Tony, what do you think? You have a lot of restaurant members.
Yeah, I mean, and I got to tell you, Dale, they all put together plans. They've thought this through. they've been spending the last 2.5 months thinking about how to restart their business.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, it's important, and I'm glad that the governor is going to start to loosen it up, because they got to open up, and curbside pickup isn't just cutting it. And also 25% capacity in that, they got to get back to normal. And, one of our mantras, Dale, as you know, we're all about a free market. Let the markets drive where this goes, right? You're going to have people that aren't going to feel comfortable going back to restaurants, but then you're going to have people that are going to be fine, and they're going to go. And as long as they, practice what's safe, and they're telling me that they are going to have extra work, making sure their customers are safe, extra clean, and making sure their waiters and waitresses, keep, their customers, just giving them that sense that, everything is clean, sanitized, but let them operate. One of the things, Dale, if you look at the governor's 3 stages, and I'm still kind of baffled by it, bars, just bars,
Right.
are basically in stage 3.
Right.
Right. And so they bifurcated out restaurants and bars. I'm not really sure why.
Right.
I get that people are around the bar, but, think about what's going to happen with the casinos. But you know what, at the end of the day, here's the takeaway, and I'm sure you brought it up in your task force. People are ready. Plans are done. They just need to start implementing them now.
They need to move. And the one thing that came up, and Tony's one of the best at really working with Trenton to make things happen, Tony, that there's actually a rule of Department of Transportation that says you can only close a street down for 48 hours. So a lot of places are saying, we're going to close the street down and allow you to have a restaurant on the street. So the government needs to actually deal with that, to change that rule. But apparently only 48 hours is when you can close the street down unless there are major problems. So I don't know if you had heard that, but that came up this morning.
No.
Yeah, so that's
You can't have outdoor dining? I'm lost.
No. Meaning that you can have outdoor dining and you can close down the street to have outdoor dining, but you can't do it more than 48 hours.
Gotcha.
Right. And so they can obviously relieve that, that restriction, but that apparently is something that's been on the books. So Myani or Barry, anything else do you want to say about this? You're restarting, what are some of the things that, because I'm thinking about people who are in our audience who've developed plans, but may have felt like maybe I didn't have anything. Did I forget something? Anything you think for restarting?
I think you have to kind of be flexible and take it as it comes, because we've gotten some information, and then that information has been updated and changes. So I think that having multiple plans in place, and also kind of looking at the worst case scenario, like how are you going to end up in your absolute worst case scenario, and try to work backward from there. That's what we're doing. Just trying to figure out if, nobody can pay their tuition and we have to close, for X amount of days, and what is it that's viable. And then that way we kind of know what is our tipping point, and we can kind of stay above that and make sure that we don't hit that point.
Right.
While I realize that the governor is erring on the side of caution, we kind of have to look at the big picture here and say that COVID's been here for months. And, basically, we've all been exposed to it long before the regulations were put in place. And by now, if you haven't been infected, you're probably not going to be. And that may sound a little bit iconoclastic, but a little over the top. But, I think it's time we have to just start easing back into normalcy.
Well, one of the things, and again, I'll turn it to Tony, that I'm hearing that the research is showing that getting it from surfaces is not as much a risk as they thought it was at first. And so I don't know if and again, I'll ask Tony because he's in touch with the legislature. Are they incorporating that in their plans? Or do you get a sense that they believe that?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think, just so you know, there are only really 2 bills that I think are actually on the governor's desk. One is for hotels and how they're going to keep clean. One, the other one is casino plan. But I haven't seen anything else in terms of that kind of data. But Dale, I mean, here's what I could tell you. They're going to be working throughout the summer, right, with the state budget. So I think you're going to see these type of bills coming up in the legislature. And what I caution our members is you got to now's the time to not be shy. And you've said this all along, Dale. Now's the time to get to know your legislators and share your thoughts, concerns. let them know that there's not one size that's going to fit all here, and that, you know, you need that flexibility, but we got to get the engine going again.
We've got to get it going again. And now there's a question, Michael Krieger has a good one, and it varies for restaurant, but the question is what percentage of, and I'll ask you, Andrew, I'll ask you, of sitting for dine-in restaurants are necessary to break even? Obviously it varies depending on restaurants, but do you have a sense of, anybody have a sense of what it might be? I mean, do you need, you know, 25% obviously is not enough. Do you need 75%? You know, I don't know if anybody's seen the number. If you haven't, we'll find it out.
Yeah.
Anybody have an idea?
Good question. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, you figure generally labor is around 20% on a restaurant. So you're going to keep the same labor, but your revenues are going to be half.
Right.
Your food costs will still be the same percentage. So, you know, if you're halfway down, you're going to be in difficult shape, especially if your rent is high.
Right.
I can offer this. The general markup or margin, I should say, for food is about 35% in the industry, whereas for alcohol it's about 50%.
Right. Right.
So if you have no liquor license or you're not a bar and then you got to look at that. If you've only got a 35% margin to begin with, and then as Andrew said, you've got your cost of labor, you're cutting it thin.
Right. Right. So the messages today, and then Tony, I'll ask you if you have any upcoming webinars that people should think about attending to end this, is relationship with your customers, with your suppliers, you know, with your bank, with your mayor, with your council people, with your assembly folks. You know, now's the time to do that. And too many family businesses are very reticent to be out there. They kind of operate privately, they make their money, and they, you know, but we've got to really be much more aggressive to let the world know how important small business is. Then, you know, hearing Barry talk about the importance of communication, of branding, of those types of things. But best of all, take advantage of the CIA and J's of the world and these kinds of webinars, because there's a lot of information out there, and a lot of people have been sitting as bystanders, but now we're going to have to implement it. We're going to be open, but, you know, I think virtually everybody's going to be open by the summer. And so if you're not ready, shame on you. If you don't have better plans, how do you readjust your business model? Where are you going? You know, and so on. And so Tony, do you have some upcoming webinars that they should know about?
Yeah, thanks, Dale. I mean, so we have one next Thursday, and I'll be more than happy to share with everybody. It's just a gathering, and we're going to keep it very informal. All of our sectors are going to get together and share their best practices on what they're going to do as their employees come back to work. It's a free flow of, this is what we're thinking, this is what we're doing, you know, this is where we think we're heading. We're also going to do one, and we're trying to finalize it, just on disinfecting and sanitizing and what you need to know. Everything from UV to spraying Lysol, you know, again, going back to how clean is clean. And we'll do a couple other ones. But the only thing I would say, Dale, and going back to the restaurants, and I've heard this a lot from our members, that this springtime is really their season, right?
Right.
You know, a lot of people go out to eat. So they're afraid that if we lose June, that, you know, we just lost May, April, now June. So they got to get back right away. So in addition to that, the cleaning one, again, next Friday is the EDA one with Tim Sullivan and the grant money. But thank you.
Yeah,
Dale, final thought, if I may.
Yeah.
Crisis like this brings up the importance of filling your sales pipeline. That if you haven't been pre-selling and you don't have a backfill of sales to come in, then when a downturn comes, you're dead in the water.
Yeah. And frankly, there's no excuse. You have had time to really and LinkedIn is a great resource to connect with people and others and so on. You know, so at some point we'll have a session on that. But I want to thank you. We're at 1 o'clock exactly. We like to keep it on time. Myani, you know, Andrew, Barry, Tony, as always, you're great. We thank our sponsors, and we will see you next week at 12 noon, Zoom at noon. So
Thanks, Dale.
take care, everybody. Good luck. Good luck. We're opening up. So
Thank you very much.
all right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Everyone have a great day.
Yeah, have a good one.
Bye.
Good luck.